Good day to you. My name's Mary and I've worked as a lady's maid here at the Vyne for many years now. I'm going to show you the upstairs rooms. The staircase was built by Mr. John Chute in the 1770s. He was a very talented architect, and just through this doorway is another talented member of the Chute family. This is the library, the first room you come to. It's rather a grand room, as you can see, and was decorated in the 19th century, although it looks much older. This room was created by Mr. Wiggett Chute, using bits of woodwork from other parts of the house. Sometime after 1842, he created the library shelves and, rather cleverly, he used some of the cornicing from the family pew in Sherborne Church, just up the road.
Ah, Mary, there you are. Would you kindly bring me those volumes from the desk at the other end of the room there?
Yes, sir. That's Mr. Challoner Chute, Mr. Wiggett Chute's son. He's writing a very important book, or so he says. It's a history of the Vyne, which was bought by the first Mr. Challoner Chute in 1653. There's a picture of him just there. Looks a bit like King Charles I, don't you think? These globes, although bought by Mr. Wiggett Chute, were printed in 1818. One of them is celestial and one is terrestrial. He also bought the small plaster busts of famous writers and philosophers. They would show guests to the Vyne that the owners of grand houses like this one would be well educated in arts and history. But my favourite thing of all in this room is this. A box of shells from Barbados. They say that sailors used to make these as valentines for their sweethearts. It's so romantic.
Mary, the books?
Oh, sorry, sir.
Whilst you're here, take the tray downstairs and remind the new butler, I forget his name, to refresh the decanter and the glasses. I'm expecting visitors this evening.
Very good, sir. Mr. Chute's guests always say these tapestries are about Dido and Aeneas. I don't know if they were real people, but I've heard it say it was a really tragic love story. They're always talking about the quality of the work, but I prefer the tapestries next door.
Mary? Mary, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Let's go. Now this is the tapestry room, and this is Mrs. Elizabeth Chute, my mistress, the wife of Mr. William Chute, who owns the house now during the Regency. It was Mr. Edward Chute, the grandson of the first Challoner Chute, who commissioned these tapestries during the early 18th century. They were manufactured by John Vanderbank in the famous Soho factory. The black background is meant to look like lacquer work, like the cabinets downstairs. There was a time when the tapestries were placed in another part of the Vyne and then they were moved in here. The family were always reusing bits of furniture and things from all over the house. This is Mrs. Chute's favourite room at the Vyne, her morning room, where she can retire to her leisure activities.
Mary, I think the cat has been playing with the embroidery threads again. Please tidy them.
There's a tatting shuttle. How did that get there? That cat. But while you're here, take a closer look at some of the cups and saucers. They're really delicate. Most of the china was collected during the 18th century. Some of it's from really far away in China. I adore the view from this window. The gardens were created in the 18th century and they follow an informal, natural sort of style that was fashionable then. You know, once upon a time, the Chute family would have been self-sufficient. They'd have eaten fish from the lake, they'd have farmed cattle for beef, and they'd have grown their own vegetables and crops.
Mary, I think the cat is in the oak gallery. Please go and take it downstairs.
Yes, ma'am. We're expecting some very important visitors here at the Vyne. In 2 days' time, King Henry Tudor and Catherine of Aragon will be here. The master, Lord Sands, loves showing guests his brand new Tudor gallery. This room's all about pomp and circumstance. It's like name-dropping on a huge scale. Look here at the coats of arms of the important people who are connected with the Sands family. Just here, we've got the pomegranate for Catherine of Aragon and the Tudor rose. The master is just practising his welcome speech. I think he's a bit nervous.
The honour you and your queen.
This room is so long, the family use it to walk up and down and get their exercise in wet weather. In fact, This strange contraption here is an exercise machine. You push yourself up and down on it like riding a horse. When they go outside, the ladies like to keep in the shade to keep their skin pale, but the rest of us have more than enough to do without worrying about things like that. I suppose that's why they like to look pale. It shows they don't have to work for a living. One thing's for sure, I certainly have to work for mine. Now this is the gallery bedroom. Have a look at these watercolours. There are so many of them. They were painted by Mrs. Elizabeth Chute, her sister Augusta, and their governess Margaret Mean at the end of the 18th century. Aren't they lovely? This bedroom has seen a series of interesting inhabitants and visitors over the years. In fact, it's said that Henry VIII himself stayed in this very room. Well, it's changed a bit since his day. Back then, this bedroom and the bedroom next door would have been part of one big royal chamber. Very fancy. I'd better go. I'm meant to be helping Mrs. Chute get ready for dinner. This is the south bedroom, and this is my mistress, Mrs. Laura Chute.
Ah, there you are. Come and help me with this, will you? How are the preparations coming along?
Very well, ma'am. The dining parlour looks lovely.
Very good. It's been a while since we've had a party, and I doubt there'll be many more. My husband thinks there's another war coming.
There's Mr. Charles Chute, my current master, and there's my mistress herself. Fine-looking couple, aren't they? Those portraits were drawn in 1937, not very long ago. Oh, Mr. Charles has had his solicitors here today. He's going to leave a very important legacy. When he dies, he's going to donate the Vyne to the National Trust. Isn't that a wonderful thing to do? So this lovely house can be enjoyed by everybody.
Mary, I'd like you to go down to the dining parlour and check that everything's just right.
Yes, ma'am, right away. Before I do go downstairs, I must just show you this painting. This is Miss Caroline Wiggett, who was adopted into the Chute family in the 19th century by Mrs. Elizabeth Chute, who painted the pictures in the gallery bedroom. It's thanks to Miss Caroline Wiggett's reminiscences that we have such a good idea about what life was like at the Vyne at that time. Well, I'd better go downstairs. There's always a lot to do here at the Vyne. But I hope you enjoy the house as much as we do.